Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joel Cuello, Professor of Biosystems Engineering at the University of Arizona. Welcome to Vertical Farming Conversations. Considered to be the Achilles heel of vertical farming is the large amount of energy that is needed to operate it. And so some folks have turned to renewable sources of energy, for instance, including solar, wind, or geothermal. The only challenge with these forms of energy is that they're almost always localized or regionalized or region-based. And so they're not available everywhere on Earth where human communities exist. But waste, however, and different forms of waste streams, be it municipal waste or industrial waste and so on and so forth, are available where human beings live. And so what if there's an efficient way by which waste streams can be converted into energy, and then part of that energy can be used to power vertical farms, even off the grid? Wouldn't that be a solution that is worth investigating? So that's the topic of our conversation today. And I would like to welcome our guest, Ray Urrutia, who is the founder and the CEO of Terra Firma Foods, Inc., which is based just outside of Chicago in Illinois. Ray, welcome to the conversation.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Okay. So, Ray, for the benefit of our audience, could you just tell us briefly about your professional forte or expertise?
Yeah, yeah. Being in vertical farming has only been the last few years, but my background has always been in marketing, product management, packaging, and looking at opportunities and then crafting technology around them. So I have a strong technology background as well as a finance background.
Yes.
And those combination of experiences have brought me here.
Wonderful, yes. Now, Terra Firma Foods Inc. has a modular form of vertical farm that you have developed and are using. Can you tell us briefly and describe to us what that is?
We're indoors, we're in soil, which is kind of against the grain in terms of the hydroponics, aeroponics type environments. And the reason we went down soil is that they've been doing it for 12,000 years. And in my mind, it's like, why change it? But what we've done is actually industrialized it. It's all indoors. We build our own buildings that are good for minus 150 degrees or plus 150 degrees, and they're hurricane proof and wind proof. And the benefit of that is we can scale down to 1,000 square feet or scale up to 100,000 square feet.
All right.
So we have a lot of flexibility where we're at, how we're doing it. And then over and above that, we bring containers to the marketplace too. So we have an A to Z type environment because we could be anywhere, anytime.
Okay. Now, I understand, of course, that you feel passionate about the energy source that is needed to power vertical farms because your ideal scenario is that you should be able to operate your vertical farm even off the grid. Tell us about that, please.
Part of my background has been in energy and in working with energy plants and people that are a lot more specialists than I am. It was very apparent to me that there's a way to have your own energy source without using the other means of energy out there, either the grid itself, water, air, or wind. Excuse me, water, air, and air and wind. And with that being said, when I started this company, the first thing I did was incorporate recyclable energy into the platform because I knew what it could produce. I also knew that it was off grid and also gives a leg up in the marketplace to actually deliver this.
Right.
And I'll fast forward in time, and we may be discussing this, but energy is preventing growth, preventing profits because expenses get too expensive for people. And I think everybody's finding out that the farms out there, the greenhouses, the indoor farms, you name it, they are really using a lot of energy right now, and more than they expected.
That is right, yeah. So at your company, Terra Firma Foods Inc. Has partnered with another company, which is C-Tech,
Yes.
And they have this proprietary gasification technology. And basically you have partnered together, and essentially you're linking their gasification technology to your vertical farming units. Tell us a little bit about the C-Tech technology.
The technology has been around for 7 or 8 years, so it's not brand new in terms of it's never been tested.
Right.
It's got a good reputation. Here in the States, we've already worked with the EPA to actually get it certified. We meet all their, whatever their metrics is, we meet all the metric check-off points.
Okay, so it's already certified by the EPA.
Yeah, it's already ready.
All right.
And the upside here is that because we have rights, I say we, the people I work with have rights to build plants here in the United States as well as anywhere around the world.
Yes.
And the benefit of that is we know there's a market out there and everybody could use this. But I think the bottom line is where there's more waste out there that nobody's getting rid of.
Right.
If we look at here in the States, a lot of landfills, but they're getting filled.
Okay.
A lot of methane gas is going up in the air, which is also a carbon generator.
Yes, yes. So Ray, tell us about the forms or the types of waste that can be used in the CTEC system.
Joel, probably almost anything. So if you look at plastic, there's also specification. There's plastic, there's wood chips, there's wood, there's cardboard, cut up tires, garbage itself. The only thing we can't have in that garbage is cans or any type of metal in there to actually combust. And so we're very, CTEC, what we have right now, can burn 18 tons of waste a day. Okay. But we have to be specific. We can't take everything in a funnel and just throw it in there. We have to be very specific what we're burning or taking care of at that moment in time. And but we know there's enough of it out there that we can be very selective in how we get it and how, make sure it's clean and so forth.
All right. Can you tell us about the efficiency of this gasification system?
Once it gets commissioned and it starts, we don't have to fuel it. There's no other types of energy that has to be poured into it to make it run. It just runs on its own based on what it's doing.
Yeah.
We do have maintenance maybe twice a year, one day each a year to make sure it's always maintained and up to spec and that everything is checking out. The process is we're going to have two people actually manning it to make sure that we always feed it to have enough energy created. But the byproduct of all this and the benefit is we generate 2 gigawatt hours per annum, and that's 18 tons a day that we can take care of. The other side of that is we also have a thermal process, thermal gasification, so we can also generate from the thermal side heat and cooling for our buildings.
All right.
As well as if we have partners, we can heat and cool some of them too. Okay. So there's a lot of benefits, and there's so many that once somebody hears this, they go, well, I want one. Does it make sense?
So based on the information actually that you provided to me, the CTEC gasification system is 82% efficient, and it is 70% thermal and 12% electricity. So that's actually
correct.
So are you now using actually the CTEC gasification system linked to a vertical farming unit or module?
Not as of yet, Joel. We have it prepared, but we haven't fired it up yet.
Okay.
So we're getting to that point.
Where do you plan to do that?
In North Royal, Illinois.
All right. Okay. However, this technology, as you mentioned earlier, we're talking about the CTEC gasification technology. It's been around for about 5 years now. And I understand that in the UK, there are units that have been in operation continuously for over 5 years.
Yeah, we're probably pushing 7 or 8 years, but yes, it has.
Okay.
And so it's a well-proven technology. Don't just try to make it better.
And did I hear you correctly that you can operate this continuously for 24/7 and about what, 350 days a year?
Yeah, a little bit longer probably, but going to 362, somewhere in that neighborhood. But yes.
Okay, so the implications of this going forward is really quite positive. Tell us what's happening in Dubai in relation to this linkage between the vertical farm and the CTEC system.
Well, there's Dubai. There's also Turkey. In Dubai, there are some CTEC equipment, but it's outside of the vertical farming industry. In Turkey, they have interest. Again, they want to look at a container that we can do the same thing with, and they also want the CTEC equipment because they have an energy problem. So this solution is going to be to a large facility, 500 rooms and so forth, and restaurants, but they're going to be off the grid. They'll be their own self-efficient environment.
Right.
And then with Dubai, they're using it also for another building that they need electricity for.
Yes.
And we're generating 2 gigawatt hours a year per annum. And then you also have 20 hours of thermal, and you can take some of that thermal and turn it into electricity. You can actually generate about 9 gigawatt hours of electricity, which is 9 million kilowatts annually.
Right. So Ray, the vision for vertical farming, of course, is that it will be adopted globally, not just in developed economies,
Yes.
but even in developing economies, and even in parts of the developing countries that are relatively isolated or off the grid. So how optimistic are you that this technology will help realize that?
Well, if I look at the challenges that vertical farming has today, um, I talked to some friends of mine in the industry. What they didn't expect was the electricity bill to outweigh every expense they have. And with that being said, I presented to them. I said, well, you should take a look at this because this could offset that. Is there a upfront investment? Yes, there is. But long term, you create 2 or 3 different income sources from that. But I do see the vertical farming industry or greenhouses, you name the type, it can use it because they use a lot of electricity, there's a lot of water. And in some cases, some equipment can actually generate water too, not like 1,000 cases of drinking water, but it can produce it. But it might be the way they water their plants and so forth.
Okay. So finally, can you talk a little bit about the economics, the costs involved in setting up this system?
Well, the costs are to buy it outright is we're talking about $10 million.
Okay.
And once you hook it up, you're gonna have a payback probably within, based on your usage in that, probably within that 4 years.
Okay.
We are looking at a leasing program for the equipment because it'd be more effective that way. You can amortize it off better and write it off differently. But the income streams you can generate from that, which is part of that.
Right.
Waste companies will pay you to take the waste. You're taking 18 tons a day.
Yeah.
Because the alternatives are in the United States, either ship it like Connecticut ships down to Florida. Toronto's shipping down to Detroit.
Yeah.
So everybody's paying this expense to get rid of their waste.
Right.
The other side of that is, like with our farm, we're going to utilize so much electricity, but there's an overabundance. Now we have an offtake we could sell back to the grid or sell to a neighborhood or some type of environment that a city wants us to power. So we can manage it that way.
Yes. And Ray, just to be clear, the figure you gave was about $10 million. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Now, does that pertain only to the C-Tech gasification system, or that also includes to its pairing with a vertical farming module?
No, that's just the equipment itself.
For the gasification.
So, yes.
All right.
Yes, it is.
All right.
And when we look at, it's like anything you look at when you look at cost. If you're a burden on the grid and cities will look at you and say, we don't want you in here right now because we won't have enough electricity as it is, or we have a brownhouse in the summertime and so forth because of air conditioner, that offsets because now you're still in business.
Okay.
And it goes anywhere, anytime.
Right. So Ray, how do you see this working financially, cost-wise, in a developing country scenario? I mean, $10 million is a big amount of money.
Yes, it is.
So tell us, how do you structure that, or how do you plan that out?
Well, the way I looked at it was, what's my alternatives?
Okay.
I could go solar, but solar's not reliable in terms of how you store it, and you got to be in the sunlight. And in the Midwest, we know there's not a lot of sunlight in the wintertime. Okay. So what do you do?
All right.
Secondly, if you look at wind, we don't have enough area by us to have a wind farm, which is more west of us, but that's a different environment. And then you also have hydro. I'm aware of some hydros in a container. They're small units. We could do that too, but that's also not cheap either. Right. So if you look at all these electrical alternatives, and then also with solar, you have to have at least for a big farm, probably about 20, 30 acres, 35 acres to put that solar in. Then you got to stack it and rack it. And you're still not guaranteed you're going to have all the electricity you're looking for. With this equipment, long term, again, if you look at your farming business, you're not in for a year, 2 years, 5 years. You're in for the long haul. And the life expectancy of the equipment is about 20 years.
Yes.
And then you have, Siemens as a partner. So there's Siemens Turbo in there. There's a lot of the good technology in there. We could run remotely. We can monitor remotely. There's a lot of things we can do to justify the expenditure.
Yes. And this is where investors, of course, could come in, and the government,
Yes.
in developing economies could also in part invest as well, or provide
Yes.
loans to companies. So do you feel long-term optimistic about this solution?
Well, absolutely. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't believe in it.
All right. Okay. So before we end, so what's the next step for you?
The next step for me is, and as I mentioned, the containers, we do the same. We have the same process for the containers, which is just a smaller unit.
Okay.
And again, if we go into an environment, we have to plug into a grid, but we're not next to it, we have a problem. We can't farm.
Right. Right.
And with us, we have a model. Anytime, anywhere. We could be in the middle of the desert. We could be in the middle of Antarctica. It doesn't matter to us because we have our own. Everything's self-contained. And I don't know how many farms can say that.
Yes.
And still survive.
All right.
And
well,
yes,
wait, Ruth, yeah, thank you so much for the passion that you have for the industry, and also for coming up with this solution that is quite competitive. So thank you so much. And of course, best wishes on your enterprise. We'll be in touch.
Thank you very much also, Joe. Appreciate it.